Hi everyone, this is math lesson 5.2. We are going to be learning how to divide by two-digit divisors. So instead of dividing by like 9 or 7, we're going to be dividing by like 29 or 72. Anyway, we've got a lot to learn today, so make sure that you get your journal set up like this. You need an orange and a lime green, and then you need to put the date in the date box. Please do that. Some people are forgetting to do that. Put that it's lesson 5.2 and push pause on the video until you get your journal looking like this. So you should have resumed the video now, and your journal looks like this. It says dividing by two-digit divisors. Number 1, look at the divisor and use reasonable rounding to get a benchmark number, and that's a number that ends in a 0. Okay, so after we've rounded, then we're going to move on to other steps. So what we want to do is just set up the first step. So the problem is going to be 2,886 divided by 39. So I'm going to write that diagonally. 2,886 divided by 39. That's the problem that we're working on. And so what we're going to do is let's do it with the place value sections, okay? So remember, for place value sections, we draw the box. Do you see how it's a two-digit divisor now? It's not something super simple. So when I go to do this math, it will help us immensely if we choose to follow step number 1, where it says look at the divisor and use reasonable rounding to get a benchmark number. So I'm trying to look for a number that ends in 0 so that this process can become faster. So if I look at the number 39 and I think, what is 39 really close to that ends in a 0, a benchmark number? It's either going to be closer to 30 or closer to 40. So in parentheses underneath it, we're going to write what it's closest to. We're going to choose 40. And I'm going to use the lime green for that. So we're saying 39 is really close to 40. And now I'm going to use the number 40 as I move ahead so that I can do mental math a little bit more. So we're going to write step number 2 over here to the right. We're going to write number 2, then we're going to color it in with orange. And it says, use mental math to estimate how many times it can use mental math to estimate how many times the benchmark number can go into the dividend. There's a skill you can also use where you round the dividend as well, like the first 2 or 3 digits of the dividend. But we're going to try doing it without that first, just to get this skill down, okay? So for step number 2, you use mental math to estimate how many times the benchmark number can go into the dividend. So even though I know the real number is 39, I'm going to use 40 to make this a lot easier. So let's practice with 40, okay? So will 40 go into 2? No. So we place a little X there. Will 40 go into 28? No. So you place an X above the 8. Will 40 go into the next number, which is 288? Yes, it will. It really will. So here's what you do. You think, okay, I don't know my 40s times tables, but I do know my 4s, and I just tack a 0 on the end. For example, 40 times 2 is the same thing as 4 times 2, but has a 0 at the end. So 40 times what gets me really close to 288? Well, I see a number in 288 that looks like 280. Can you see that that's pretty close to 280? I know it's close to 290, but the reason why I would want to say 280 is because 4 has a relationship with 28. 4 has a relationship with 28. So I'm going to take my orange and I'm going to underline the 4 in 40 and the 28 in the dividend. That has a relationship. 4 goes into 28 7 times. So maybe 40 times 7 is going to get me close to this. What is 40 times 7? Well, it's 4 times 7 plus a 0, so it's 280. That is really close to this. However, all we're doing is we're thinking, okay, I think it's about 7. But you cannot do 40 times 7 because that's not the actual number. You only use the benchmark number to help you round or guess. Then you go back to the original number and do the actual multiplication and division. So let's go to step number 3, and we're going to write it in green underneath step number 2. Step number 3 is do normal division steps after finding the closest estimate. You will need to do the multiplication to the side. So I actually want to be really specific on this. So it's going to say use the actual divisor. Not the rounded one, the actual one. Use the actual divisor to do normal division. We'll say to do the normal division steps. Use the actual divisor to do the normal division steps after you have found a close estimate. You're going to need to do the multiplication to the side, so I am going to put that down here with a star. You will need to do multiplication to the side. I'm going to actually rephrase it. You will need to show the multiplication steps to the side. What I mean by that, just going to use green, is you can't just guess and do all the math in your head or use a calculator. You are going to have to follow those steps. You will need to show the multiplication steps to the side. That is absolutely required, especially with 2-digit divisors. You're going to need to show that work, and you're going to need to have plenty of space to work it out. So let's go back to our problem. And we were on step number 2, and then we need to move on to step 3 with those things in mind. So step 2 was to use mental math to estimate how many times the benchmark number. Do you remember that we said it could go in about 7 times? Because we're looking at it as 288. And 40 goes into 280 7 times. So we're thinking it's about 7. Well, I moved to step number 3, and I used the actual divisor. The actual divisor is 39. And I do the division step. So you said, or we said, sorry, that it was 7. So I'm going to write 39 times 7 because I go back to the original divisor to see if 39 times 7 gets me close to 288. Remember, it can't go over. All right, did you get 273 like I did? Double check your math just in case. It is 273, but I want to just be clear. Is 273 something that will work? Yeah, but is there a way that I could get a group of 39 more? Like, do you think this estimate is too low? Do you think I should try 39 times 8? Well, if you are like, I don't know if you should, look at what the number is. It's 273. Could you get 39 more of those? Like, could you add 39 to this and it still be less than 288? No. And here's how I know. Because if I added 10 to this, it'd be 283. If I added 20, it'd be 293. And I was supposed to add 39, and I'm already above it. So nope, it cannot be 39 times 8. It is 7. We did it right. And how did I randomly just know it was 7? It wasn't random. I used step number 1, where I picked a benchmark number, and I tried to use estimation. So it's not magical, it's mathematical, right? Okay, so we know it is 7. So I put the 7 above that second 8 where there's a space for it. And because I'm doing it like this in place value boxes, I fill in zeros, remember? So what is 39 times 7 with a 0? It's going to be 273 with a 0. So I write it underneath the 2886. And I subtract it. Six minus 0 is 6. 8 minus 3 is 5. And 8 minus 7 is 1. So I have a new dividend, right? I have leftovers, so I keep going. Some people are learning that you can draw a completely separate box, or you can just attach another box. You're welcome to do whatever you'd like to do. I move the leftovers in there. You're still dividing by 39, but we're going to use 40 to look at this. Okay. Now the number I'm looking at is 40 into 156. Well, 4 and 15 don't really have a connection. But what about 4 and 16? Like, what if I said 156 was close to 160? You see how I'm doing that? So what if I say, well, 4 will go into 15 only 3 times, but it's almost 160. So I'm going to maybe guess 4 times. This is all about guessing and checking, but not just guessing random numbers like, oh, no, let's try 11. No, I'm using my head. I'm saying, well, 40 goes into 160 4 times. So I'm going to try 39 times 4. And where am I going to do my work? To the side. Why am I choosing 39? Because it's the original divisor. And we're just going to see what happens here. Did you get 156? I did. So 39 times 4 is exactly 156. So 39 goes into 156. Remember, 39 doesn't go into 1. Technically, I could have put little x's there. It doesn't go into 15. But it does go into 156 4 times. And there's no more places for zeros. There's no place values left. It's the ones place. So I'm done. And I prove it by subtracting it and showing a 0. So my answer is what, everybody? 74. Okay, how'd you do with that first one? Do you know how I could check to see if this is correct? I would take my quotient, which is 74, and I would multiply it by my divisor, which is 39, and I would get 2886. I would get my original divisor. Dividend. Whew, that was hard. So quotient times divisor should give you your original dividend. Okay, let's try another one like this. Let's try 81 is the divisor. So 7533, I'm going to write a diagonal, divided by 81. 7533 divided by 81. Let's do this one in place value boxes again. Seven, 533 gets in the box. 81 goes outside. We begin, when it's a two-digit divisor, we begin by saying, well, what is 81 really close to that ends in a 0? Remember this? 80. So write 80 in those green parentheses. Okay, and now I begin the process. I'm just using 80 to do mental math. I'm on step number 2. I'm just using the number 80. And I look at 8 and I decide, okay, well, what are my multiples of 8? And I start saying them in my head. 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, right? I keep going. But I'm just going to go like this. Will 80 go into 7? No. Will 80 go into the next number over? 75. No. Okay, so I should have 2 x's above there. If it won't go into 7 and it won't go into 75, there should be x's above there. Just do little ones. Will it go into 753? Yes, it will. Okay, it really will. So you're going to go like this. What is the first digit of 80? It's 8. And what are the first 2 digits of 753? 75. So you're just going to try to use your multiplications with 8 to get to a number that's close to 75. 8 times 7 is 56, so it's got to be higher than that. 8 times 8 is 64. 8 times 9 is 72. 8 times 10 would be 800, so that'd be too high. So it's got to be 8 times 9. So I'm thinking 9. So my brain, I'm going to draw, I was just going to say I was going to draw a brain, but I won't. I'm going to draw a light bulb here. Because I want to make sure that you're understanding it's not that I do 80 times 9. It's just that I'm thinking, I think 9 will work. So I'm just write a little 9 to the side. I think 9 is going to work. So now I'm on step 3. Use the actual divisor to do the normal division and multiplication steps. So if you think it's 9, then you go 81 times 9. And you do all of that work to the side. Remember, it can't go over. Did you get 729? Okay, go back and look at the number, 753. Could you get a whole nother group of 81? No. It would go way over. I only have like 20 something left. I can't give you 80 more. So that means it has to be 9. 9 was the correct guess. So I put a 9 above the 3 on my quotient line. And I see, oh no, there's a spot for a 0. So I do 729 with a 0, which is 7,290, and I subtract it from 7533. You got quite a bit of leftovers here. 243. I'm just going to attach the box to my other box. I know 90 is going to be partial quotient. And now I'm doing 243, and I go back to the same thing. I go back to, okay, well I have the 8 and I have this 24. So will 80 go into 2? No. Will 80 go into 24? No. So why did I underline the 4? So I should be putting X's, sorry. But why did I underline the 4, the 24? Because I'm trying to use mental math. I'm trying to go, okay, well, 80, I don't know my 80 times tables, but I do know my 8s. And so I go like this. Well, 8 will go into 24 3 times. So should we try 80 times 3? We'd be like 240. Yeah, let's try 3. So my light bulb moment there is, I think it's 3. So I do step number 3. Use the actual divisor. So I'm going to use the 81. And what did I think it was? 3. So I times 81 by 3. Well, look at that. It's exactly 3. So subtract it and prove that it's 0. So your final quotient is 90 plus 3, which is 93. You do okay on that one? It's pretty awesome. If you're following along, it's pretty great. All right, let's try another one. Let's try 4967. This will be the last one we try on this page. 4967, otherwise said as 4,967. I'm going to divide it by 68. Will you go through all of these and use your green to circle all of the problems that we've done, just so that they stand out? Okay, are you ready for this one? Okay, why don't you, oh sorry, you couldn't see that. I'm so sorry. Write it now, 4967 divided by 68. We are going to do place value sections, and then on the back page we'll practice the other method, okay, for those of you who like long division. Okay, so if I'm drawing my first box, I really do like this method because I can space things out more and it just makes more sense. Okay, so you take the number 68 and you round it to a number that ends in 0. Who wants to tell me what 68's benchmark would be? 70. Okay, and now I just ask the question, will 70 go into 4? No, so put an X. Will 70 go into 49? No, put an X. Will 70 go into 496? Yes. So now that I know that's where my first place is going to be, my first place value, I go back to the 70 and I think, okay, 70 and 49, because I want to know my 7's times tables. Hey, guess what? 7 goes into 49 exactly 7 times. So my light bulb moment is 7. I think it's 7. So I take my original number. I'm on step 3 now. I take my original number and I do 68 times, what was my light bulb moment? 7. Does that work? Is it smaller than 496? Yes. Is there a way, if I'm looking at 476, can I get 68 more, another group of 68, which means can I multiply this by 8, or would it be too high? It's going to be too high. They're only 20 off right now. It would be too high. So the correct answer was 7. I keep having us practice that because that comes up, where you've estimated too low or too high, and so you have to do another group. We'll practice more of that probably tomorrow, but that's how we do this, okay? So it is 7, so you put the 7 above the 6. And it's 7D, remember, it's not just 7 times, it's 7D. And so it's 476 with a 0. You subtract those. And then you bring your leftovers into the next box. Start the process all over again. You're still dealing with 68, so let's use 70. And let's go with our number 20 right here. Because I know it's not going to go into 2, and I know it's not going to go into 20. So why did I underline the 20? It's because I'm trying to use my 7's times tables. 7 times 2 is 14. 7 times 3 is 21, which is really close to this number. It was really close to 20. Oh, in fact, but some of you might be thinking, but it's over. It's over 21. It's over 20. 21 is over 20. And you might be thinking that, and that is not a wrong thought. But you have to remember, if 207 was really to round to a number that ended in a 0, would it be closer to 200 or 210? It would technically be closer to 210. So, and that number is 21. So my light bulb moment of thinking, how many times will 7 go into 20 or 70 into 207? I'm actually going to think maybe 3 times because it's really close. If you're worried and you think it's only 2 times, you can try that. But I'm going to try 3 times. Why did I go with 68? Because that's the original number. And I'm trying 3 times. 68 times 3. I got 204. So can it be 3 times? Yeah. What if, because it's smaller, it's just 204 is less than 207. So yes, it can be 3 times. But could it be 4 times? Like, could I get another set of 68 in here? No way. I'm only 3 off. So no way. So it is 204. So guess what, my friends? This problem has a remainder. We have our quotient, which is 73. And we have a remainder of 3. That is how you would write it if you were in what grade? 4th grade. How are you going to write it as a 5th grader? 73 and 3/68. Wow, we're going to change that into a fraction. That is the correct answer. You do have a remainder. I'm just kind of showing you in orange what that looks like. So you can absolutely do this. It's just like normal division, only we've added a couple extra steps of using benchmark numbers. So it's super important that you understand that a benchmark number is a number that is close to the number, but it ends in 0. I'll see you in the next video to practice some more.